In a room, a bunch of self-identifying young women and allies and non-binaries.
Being women. You know how the woman song goes.
We are strong.
We are brave.
We are born leaders.
We are fierce.
We are not to be underestimated.
We are enough.
We are beautiful.
We are powerful.
We are unstoppable.
We are incredible.
We are talented. We are strong.
We are brave.
We are born leaders.
We are fierce.
We are not to be underestimated.
We are enough.
We are beautiful.
We're powerful.
We are unstoppable.
We are incredible.
We are talented. Blah, blah, blah. We are flipping bored.
There's not a chorus that could communicate our discontent sufficiently.
We want to cause some mischief. We want to dance on bar tops, with or without our tops on.
We want to rob a bank and get away with it. So we wouldn't have to sit here day after day thinking about which grant to apply for, which job might last past a recession.
We want to rip down the walls, hiding hallways of hapless politicians and just take over, start over, bulldoze their basicness into a renewable energy resource that will light up our new world, alongside the raging fires that fuel us and burn us and drain us and char us.
We may be enough, but we've had enough of strong and brave and beautiful being enough. We want to be
Criminals. We want to break every single law laid down to make life limp.
We could be good. We could be the best, and it would not pass the power test. Because look at who we have in Westminster.
Look at who is taking the piss out of our laws and our good, clean thoughts every single day. Nah, if that's how we have to roll to run things, we're game.
We always have been.
Women are not just mums and daughters and sisters.
We are motherfuckers too.
And we're coming for you.
Hi, we are the bored women of the rooms.
We are the bored women of the rooms.
We are the bored women of the rooms.
We're the bored women of the rooms.
We're the bored women of the rooms.
Joining you from our rooms in 2021, but rooms are dating back to around 2200 BC. Excavations in Santorini have shown that early Minoan structures have clearly defined rooms.
If you believe that a tomb is a room for your deathbed, basically, your forever room, then they've been doing those in Ireland since about 3600 BC, and then of course globally.
So basically, there has been a lot of rooms.
And a lot of women.
Actually, it's an estimated 54 billion women have existed on the planet since the beginning of time. There's around 3.5 billion women on the planet right now, and if each of them goes into a room at some time, even if it's not a room of one's own, rooms have always had women in them. Imagine,
There was probably never a room that a woman hasn't been inside. Even the ones that still aren't allowed inside, like some of London Pall Mall's members clubs. They probably still clean them, or deliver something to them, or pick someone up from one of them. Unless it is a whole guarded peninsula, like Mount Athos in Greece, where there are thousands of rooms for thousands of men across hundreds of kilometers. But women are completely banned. Though, so are female animals. Neither can come within 500 meters of the coast, unless the female animal is a cat.
Pussies are okay because they catch the many mice that would otherwise eat all the food. The plus side of this no female animal except cats thing is it makes being vegan very easy.
This is Greece, by the way, not some faraway place that gets some good old European funding to tackle its gender discriminatory policies.
did you know the only women who have entered the Mount Athos Peninsula have done so illegally? Starving raiders in the Greek Civil War who stole flocks that were allowed to roam there during the conflict. Dressing as a man got a few in, and that resulted in the maximum 12-month prison penalty that now exists for any other criminal woman that might try it.
Criminal women in prison, some of them not. Some of them in prison for crimes they didn't even commit.
Or did commit, but if they did, then 80% of those crimes are non-violent and mostly shoplifting, theft, or fraud offences. The very thing people at the top of our power structures, be it business or politics, are experts at. So stealing without the protection of the law is pretty much what they are locked in those rooms for. Away from families and children and jobs and hobbies and loves, rooms where they're needed and that do not cost the public an average £37,543 per year to lock.
Some criminal women have never been caught by the law, and strangely or not so strangely, haven't been caught by the global imagination industry either. Not given much thought, not many books, hardly any films, comparatively anyway. Think about Al Capone, the craze, Pablo Escobar, criminals more famous than fairy tales. We're not including serial killers here.
All these lot had bodies that added up. Sure, but it's actually more about the empire they built illegally against the norms of society. But in the same way the normalised empire builders did too. Just one was posh, the other wasn't.
The murder parts were to keep being able to commit the crimes they committed without being stopped, or caught, or killed themselves, which is not an excuse. They are still the killers.
But they are criminals first, not the other way around, which is maybe semantics, but it's the bit we're interested in.
Where are the women like this?
Not in the top 10 Google of famous criminals, that's for sure.
Bonnie gets a mention, Clyde adjacent, of course, which isn't insignificant.
That the only women criminals that are household names are the ones who worked out their criminal cross-world worlds with their intimate male partners, those with husbands, boyfriends, lovers, the men who were really in charge, of course.
These women might be allowed to get famous for being so naive as to fall for the persuasive, perverted powers of man bent against society's norms, rather than for any ingenuity or lawless ferocity of their own.
And we just think, and yeah, maybe it's too many hours spent on Zooms in our rooms drinking rosé, but our thoughts on this are simply that if we don't recognise the bad shit, the fact that women since time immemorial have been motherfuckers too, for money, for power, for fame, and without any moral awakening at the end, without any baby to protect or wrong to avenge.
Though, is that really possible for women in the end? Well, if we don't at least get recognised in the first bit about women being motherfuckers too, then how can we possibly get recognised for the normal boring things we do?
Like changing our bed sheets.
Or playing ukulele.
Do my makeup every day.
Like getting engaged,
keeping a plant alive,
or making lots of cups of tea.
Or mixing drinks.
Painting.
Getting a new job.
Or remembering to brush my teeth twice a day.
Doing Joe Wicks workouts for 3 weeks at a time.
Going for a walk.
Or, more importantly, clocking up 350 hours on Animal Crossing.
So we want to raise a glass to some criminal women.
We have cocktail makers.
Mixologists, as we like to be called.
Mixing cocktails to raise to these criminal women.
And by drinking them down, we hope to get drunk and less bored.
Yeah, but also to remember they were there, we're here, and in the rooms of power, criminals roam.
Healing from the people doing such worse things than what these women did.
So, with every sip,
which does not have to be alcoholic,
we hope you remember this too.
Griselda Blanco,
50 millilitres blue Algae Blanco tequila,
was a major cocaine dealer in Miami.
50 millilitres fresh lime juice.
Becoming one of the biggest drug dealers in the Western Hemisphere during the 70s and 80s.
20 millilitres wine syrup.
She invented the motorbike drive-by killing, but used any method going to get rid of her enemies that seemed the slightest hindrance. 250 such people, legend has it, including 3 of her ex-husbands. She got one of them and his 6 bodyguards with an Uzi in a nightclub car park after he betrayed her on a deal.
20 millilitres beetroot juice.
19 years in American prisons. 23 hours in a 4x4 room. That's 131,765 hours in a room before being deported back to her original home of Colombia.
50 millilitres of orange juice.
Where she was shot in the street. ironically by the very same drive-by bike killing she invented. She was carrying 150 pounds worth of meat from the butcher's and a Bible under her arm.
3 salt flakes, put all the ingredients into a shaker and shake it with cube ice for 6 seconds and then strain into a tall glass. Finish with a lime twist. What was she doing with all that meat?
The Bible.
Feasting.
To remember those she killed?
Or to forget them. Blood flanked by blood, offering sacrifices to the statues of Catholicism, repenting flesh with flesh.
Tonight we will feast, pray to the Virgin Mary for her blessings, and we will sing the names of those we've killed. It will be a long song.
Maybe she was cooking for the homeless, distributing pork chops and sirloin steaks to the streets as she preached her favourite passages from Genesis.
But see, there we go, giving a redemptive ending. When men who have killed so many for their cocaine thrones need none, do they?
So, no. She stays there, dead on the stone by rival gangs, covered with the meat she was going to eat herself, or feed to the young men she paid to bathe her in rose water, and using the Bible to make them pledge allegiance to her until death.
Yes, it tastes good.
De la Madrina. Next, number 2.
One metal chalice.
Ancient Egypt, the place beer was invented.
200 mils brown ale.
And an ancient Egyptian woman called Nesmet, a leader of 2 robberies in the Valley of Kings in the 20th dynasty.
1 teaspoon of honey.
Not much else is known, but we can suppose that as this much is known. She was caught, and it was recorded. And perhaps she faced the same sentencing as other women who were caught for conspiracies against the powerful men who kept them in a harem, nose and ears cut off, or as a special treat, invited to commit suicide. It was a time of minimal crime, supposedly, or things are seen as crimes now, weren't then? Who can say? They did consider tomb raiding the very worst crime, higher than murder even, to plunder the sacred resting room of the greats. So it is likely she faced death, decapitation, drowning, being burned alive.
Combine all the ingredients in a cocktail shaker and fill with ice. Stir this mixture gently for 10 seconds and then strain into the metal chalice.
Before this, though, Nesmut led the way. Through those limestone tombs, marble rooms after marble room, masterful at trickery, architecturally telepathic, unmapped mazes unfazing to her strong eyes and arms, holding a lamp in one and removing stone with another, to eventually, stealthily, successfully steal the gold and emeralds of kings and queens.
Until, of course, the day she got caught and recorded, allowing us to know this. Which begs the question, how many other women criminals in history are untold just because they were too fucking good at it?
Plus, we could probably add all queens to the criminal category too, depending on your politics, which we don't have enough alcohol to discuss today, so nothing to fear.
We'll leave them alone for now and allow them time to judge or atone their ways of accumulating wealth, whether it was stolen back by women like Nesmut or not.
Bottoms up.
The Tomb Raider.
Number 3, Qing Shi, Madam Qing, terrorised the China seas in the 1800s.
2 drops of poppy seed tincture.
Has appeared in bit parts on screen, including Pirates of the Caribbean, but here she's solo, leading alone, as she did back then, with 40,000 men, women, and children under her unforgiving wing. The most successful pirate in the whole of history.
50 mils of dark rum.
And never caught. Fought the British, the Portuguese, and the Qing dynasty.
3 peeled and destoned lychee fruits.
Her rules were strict and cruel, though sometimes pretty good, it could be said. No pirate was to steal from any villagers that gave them supplies, and pirates who raped female captives were beheaded. Yes! But then consensual sex meant death for both parties. Legs were up with cannibals and thrown overboard. And any disobeying of the rules meant head chopped off too, so,
25 mils of sweet and sour.
She started her career as a sex worker, and at 26 married a notorious pirate, had 2 kids. When he died 5 years later, she took the whole enterprise over and expanded it to be the force that only the Portuguese could eventually get to surrender years later. Then, when Ching eventually hung up her eye patch, she opened a brothel, married her adopted son, and had 2 more kids with him in her 40s. We've been told so many lies, haven't we?
25 mils of cherry brandy. Combine all the ingredients in a blender and blend thoroughly. Shake with ice and strain into a martini glass, garnishing with a slice of lime.
What did she do with all that money?
Made on the back of beheaded necks and young girls having sex with whoever could pay.
She must have made sure she gave plenty of it to her family. They were all around her bed at home when she died, crying for this criminal woman, their mother, their friend.
What would they spend it on?
This one's strong.
The Ching Cherry Martini.
Marion Boyd had 9 children who survived childhood in 16th century Scotland, so that was pretty good going. Maybe she thought it was luck. Or maybe she thought it was the double power of Protestant prayer from her husband, James Hamilton, 2nd Earl of Abercorn, who did a lot of Irish colonising for King James, and her own Roman Catholic consul. Unusual pairing for the time, and perhaps this is why, as thanks for the 9 surviving, she promised her priest she'd raise her kids Catholic.
This one is non-alcoholic. Ironic? Yes.
Blind eyes were given to this wish until her husband died. Then she was excommunicated from the Church of Scotland and locked up in Edinburgh's Tollbooth cells for 2 years as an uncharged criminal awaiting charges for believing in the same God, but differently.
Take time to make your own iron brew simple syrup by pouring a can of iron brew into a pot, warming it through on the stove until it reduces to syrup consistency, then chill.
2 years it took for the laws to decide there wasn't a charge to be made, and the cells were needed for witches and whatnot. So she was put in a house arrest at her home in West Lothian to make sure she didn't sneak out to meet Catholic priests who had to keep things under wraps, but were not under house arrest themselves. She died soon after she arrived.
Half a shot of ginger and lemongrass cordial.
Criminal woman without being charged with a crime. Detention without trial. It's still the rage right now, of course.
I hope for that time Marion couldn't leave the house. She found a room with a window overlooking the green slopes and spotted orchids of Duntreville. Maybe asking a remaining child to pick some and put in a vase so she could see them, even when it got dark outside, with their pink and purple spots and stripes on their 3 lobed lips.
Perhaps she imagined walking in the sharp fresh air without a guard, and when she knew that she would never do so again, she struck the cone-shaped cluster of spiked flowers to her heart and made its chamber split apart to escape room after room of nowhere to go.
Finally flow freely through Scottish hills and castle walls.
But who really believes in ghosts?
Shake the shot of ginger and lemongrass cordial and half shot of iron brew syrup over ice. Strain and serve in a gimlet glass. Marion's mocktail. Might be 1E5 a day. So finally, death. The Black Widow, as Linda Colvin was nicknamed.
75 ml black vodka.
East London, born and bred. A loving 1950s Stepney childhood working on the Roman road market selling wigs with mother, till she fell in love with a bank robber. Married him and lived happily till Linda was tipped into getaway driver after her husband was shot dead by police during a botched bank robbery job. And soon after, she was one with the guns out and doing the getting, not just the getting away.
Plenty of ice.
Vodka, lime, and soda was her favourite drink. Hard day at work.
5 ml fresh lime juice.
Busting through heavy doors to demand bags filled with the cash and rings and all things sellable.
1 teaspoon edible pearl dust.
She tells it better in her book. Written this year after 18 and a half years in a prison cell for murdering her then husband. Apparently.
5 ml simple syrup. Shake all the ingredients together, add extra pearl dust to the bottom of a coupe glass, and strain cocktail into it, adding more pearl dust if needed for shimmer.
She denies it. The murder of him, not the life of crime, of leading armed robberies around London, of being proposed to by the men who did what she did, but whose names go down in history. Charlie Bronson, Reggie Cray, saying no thanks, doing things her way. This drink's for you. Sip it slow.
The Black Widow.
And so what about us now?
You.
Still in our rooms.
Still unsure of what we can do that really is a crime, or not really a crime in the eyes of ethics, only politics, or a crime that would get some of us punished and others celebrated.
Yep.
But at least now we're a bit pissed.
All high on halal fizzy Haribo.
Or the meditative melody of proper green tea.
Whatever is your fix, your thing.
We have been here to bring you what we brought you.
Dubious drink recipes and a gaze.
A bored woman in a room gaze on other women who were doomed by the sort of world we say we don't want, but we still build.
Who were mostly
Except our Scott, obviously.
Not very nice women.
Women.
But then, if you add everything up, whoever does.
It's confusing as fuck.
But we still got stuff to celebrate, right?
like dropping out of medical school.
Or learning how to play an instrument.
Or learning the choreography to Lady Gaga's Rain on Me perfectly.
Or passing your driving test. 4th time.
Or finishing War and Peace, the longest and most boring book to ever exist.
So we celebrate through the confusion.
To find a way through to some sort of truth.
We hope we told it how we could.
Pass it on.
Slangivar.
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 Zangibar.